My brothers and sisters in Christ, in the first reading from the book of the prophet Jeremiah, we hear the Lord in his discourse with Jeremiah explaining, in a sense, a message that would be very hard to stomach as the prophet, and that he's essentially commissioned Jeremiah to go speak for him, yet is telling him in advance, they won't listen to you. And we hear, in a sense, that God has spoken. His word is given, the law. He has sent prophets time and time again. He's saying the people, the hardness of their hearts, they have heard. They just choose not to listen. And these words are powerful. In the Psalm, we hear from Psalm 95, and words that evoke the readings, at least from the A cycle of this past Sunday, of the hardness of your hearts. If today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts. Reminding of the Israelites at Meribah and Massah, right after God had done the mighty deeds and the flight from Egypt of the Exodus, the various miracles performed there, the signs in Egypt. He brings them out, literally splits the Red Sea that they can pass through dry shod, closes the sea to destroy the Egyptians, and brings them out free. And yet, even then, having seen an overwhelming display of the providence of God, they complain at every turn. We see that Moses goes up the mountain to receive the commandments, and they can't even wait the days that he's gone. They demand Aaron to make of them an idol that they can worship. In the desert, they complain about the food. God gives them manna. They complain. We're going to die of thirst. He gives them water from the rock. And so it's always something. And so we hear in the gospel that even as Jesus drives out demons, in a sense there's a rationalization. Well, it's because he's of the devil himself. By power of demons, he drives out demons. In a sense, his opponents have already decided that they reject what this one has to say. And therefore, once one has already decided upon their course, we can rationalize our way to anything. We can come up with a way to get out of any trap. So once they've decided that they are opposed to Jesus, they could rationalize anything against what he said or did. And in a sense, we can be the same way. The people of Israel, despite the fact they saw the power of God, their hearts were still hardened to him in the desert. And so again, we hear that refrain, if today you hear the Lord's voice, harden not your hearts. Too often, we can be the same way. And even before we talk about matters of religious faith, we can look at the confirmation bias we practice in our lives. This is true especially in matters of politics these days, where everyone picks their side and digs in, embeds himself in their trench. And once you've decided who the good guys and the bad guys are, then everything is interpreted through that lens. Whatever a good guy says is good, and whatever a bad guy says must be bad. In a sense, there's no room in between. We make the pick, and then we project that as our reality. And so we can do this in the life of faith, and that we like to blame. When things go astray, then we can just blame God and say, well, he didn't communicate it to me clearly enough, which is ridiculous. God speaks to us very clearly, powerfully. When we stray from God, it is our fault. It is our sin, and it is because we have worshipped another idol. And that idol ultimately is ourself. In a sense, what I want or what I prefer is better than whatever God is saying, whatever the church is saying. I know better. This is the ultimate sin of pride. That's what's behind every sin we commit. And so when we do that, we can rationalize everything. We can reconstruct the faith. We can reinterpret the scriptures. We can do whatever we want to make sure that what I think comes out to be right. And this is a dangerous place for us to be. Instead, during Lent, we are called to the place of humility, to instead first assume that we are wrong. Not even to figure out if I'm wrong, just to go ahead and assume and admit that I'm wrong. Between God and I, He's right and I'm wrong. And now this is the time to scrutinize our hearts to see what false idols we have put up, what ways have we deceived ourselves or allowed others to deceive us? What ways have we twisted or rationalized? Now is the time to cast that aside and return to God and to hear from Him the fullness of His truth, His commandments, and most of all the message of His love and mercy. If today you hear the voice of the Lord, harden not your hearts. May God bless you all.